The Galactic Council had classified humans as recklessly empathetic after the third incident of a human attempting to pet a Vortian warbeast. But nothing could have prepared the galaxy for what Tessa Rowe would do on the frontier world of Talax 7. Tessa was a xenobiologist, though her colleagues often joked she was more photographer than scientist. Her personal data logs contained thousands of images: crystalline beetles from Proxima, bioluminescent serpents from the Deep Reach, and an unfortunate selfie with a rather confused ambassador during a diplomatic summit. She carried her camera everywhere, a vintage model she'd modified to work across light spectrums invisible to human eyes. The mission to Talax 7 was supposed to be routine: catalog the local fauna, assess colonization viability, file a report. Standard procedure. What wasn't standard was stumbling upon a den of Korin cubs. Korin were the apex predators of 17 systems. 8 feet tall when fully grown, with obsidian scales that could deflect plasma fire, retractable claws capable of shearing through starship hull plating, and a hunting success rate that made them the stuff of nightmares. Their adults were protected under galactic law not for conservation, but because killing one usually meant you died first. The standing advice from the council was simple: if you see a Korin, run, and pray it's already eaten. Tessa found the cubs in a cave system 3 kilometers from base camp. There were 4 of them, each no larger than a human child, their scales still soft and mottled gray rather than the adult's intimidating black. They tumbled over each other in clumsy playfighting, chirping and growling in high-pitched tones that Tessa's translator couldn't quite process. One of them noticed her first froze mid-pounce, its luminous amber eyes locking onto the strange bipedal creature in the cave entrance. Any sane being would have retreated, slowly, very slowly. Tessa raised her camera and took a photo. The flash startled all 4 cubs. They scattered, pressing against the cave walls, hissing in alarm. Tessa lowered herself into a crouch, making herself smaller, less threatening. She kept her movements slow, deliberate. The camera screen showed the image she'd captured: 1 cub mid-leap, scales catching the light, expression somewhere between fierce and adorable. "Hey there, little ones," she murmured, her voice soft. "Didn't mean to scare you." The boldest cub she mentally named its Scout crept forward, nostrils flaring as it tested her scent. Tessa held perfectly still, letting it investigate. Scout circled her twice, then sat back on its haunches and tilted its head, studying her with obvious curiosity. She took another photo. This time Scout didn't startle. Instead, the cub seemed fascinated by the soft click of the shutter. It leaned closer, and Tessa showed it the camera screen. The cub's eyes widened, seeing its own image displayed. It chirped a sound of pure delight and immediately struck a pose, chest puffed out, tiny claws extended. Tessa laughed and took the shot. That was the moment everything changed. The other 3 cubs, emboldened by Scout's fearlessness, rushed forward. They jostled for position in front of the lens, each trying to present their most impressive angle. One stood on its hind legs. Another attempted what could only be described as a fierce roar, though it came out as more of a squeak, and the third simply flopped onto its back, displaying its softer belly scales in complete trust. Tessa spent the next hour in that cave, photographing the cubs as they posed, preened, and performed. They seemed to understand the camera's purpose instinctively, or perhaps they simply loved the attention. Each click brought excited chirps. Each image displayed on the screen prompted new poses, increasingly elaborate. She was reviewing the photos, laughing at a particularly dramatic shot of Scout attempting to look menacing when a shadow fell across the cave entrance. The mother Korin stood there, all 8 feet of scaled death, her eyes glowing with predatory focus. Tessa's heart stopped. The cubs froze. The galaxy's most efficient killer stared at the human who had somehow infiltrated her den and spent the last hour with her offspring. Tessa did the only thing that made sense to her human brain. She turned the camera screen toward the mother and showed her the photos. The Korin's head tilted, much like Scout's had. She stepped into the cave, movements liquid and precise, and lowered her massive head to examine the images. Tessa scrolled through them, hands shaking slightly, showing each cub's poses, their play, their joy. The mother made a sound, a deep rumble that vibrated through Tessa's chest. Not aggressive. Something else. She turned her great head toward her cubs, then back to Tessa, then to the screen again. Then she sat, arranged her tail elegantly around her body, lifted her head to catch the best light, and waited. Tessa nearly dropped the camera. You want me to take your picture? The Koran rumbled again, somehow conveying impatience. Tessa took the shot, then another. Then one with the mother and all 4 cubs arranged in a family portrait that would later break every record on the galactic network. When Tessa finally left the cave 3 hours later, her storage drives were full and she had a standing invitation to return. The cubs had adopted her, and their mother had apparently decided that any creature who could make her children so happy was worth protecting, rather than eating. The photos went viral within days. Scientists were baffled. Military strategists were confused. The Galactic Council added a new note to humanity's file, capable of befriending literally anything, including apex predators. Recommend never leaving them unsupervised. But the galaxy learned something important that day. Humans didn't see monsters. They saw personalities, stories, beauty worth capturing. And sometimes, just sometimes, the deadliest creatures in the universe wanted nothing more than someone to see them, really see them, and remember. Tessa returned to Talak 7 every month. The cubs grew, though they never outgrew their love of posing. And somewhere in the council archives, there's a classified file containing one particular image. 4 juvenile Koran and 1 adult, all looking directly at the camera. And in the center, grinning like she'd just made friends with the universe, Tessa wrote. The caption reads simply, "Humanity."